What's wrong? What did I do wrong?
No, the rabbi is just getting set up, so there's nothing to do there.
They don't see us, do they?
Not unless I turn the video on.
Well, should I change this?
I didn't turn the video on, so I'm telling you.
I'm asked. Oh, it's not
I
going to
didn't
be.
turn it on.
Okay.
It's only if you want me to, then yeah. Otherwise, no, they can't see you because the video's on.
What do you think we should do? Put it on or not? Yeah, put it on. I'll change my top. Fell asleep for just a little bit. Should I put another book over there or something?
No.
Are there people there?
There seems to be some people walking in. So. Oh, sound even on yet. We're in the yard. Somebody's
Turn it around.
well, right now there's nobody on.
Make it go on.
Which way do you want it? This way or that way?
That
on Mars. Sort of dark.
I don't know how much light is in it. The back. Usually you can hear something.
It's off mute. Unmuted. So there's nobody. I don't know. I can't tell. No, it pushes out. That's not it. And there's the minister.
I feel like
I have.
Hello. Hello. Shabbat shalom. You may sit anywhere that you would like to sit. Really? You may sit anywhere you'd like to sit.
that's not.
Sir, can you test the sound on that mic over there?
Testing. Who knows? Yeah.
What's that?
There's so many options.
I just look around.
I yell at you at the top.
What's that?
The business, I make the top for myself. Up here already. The service out.
I started out as
Ah!
many years ago.
There's always strength.
Hello, Shabbat Shalom.
I wasn't.
I'm waiting for your invitation. Great. I'm waiting for an engraved invitation. And wait for it.
Yeah. You know, all the body heat's gonna warm us up right away. Hey, how are you doing? Doing okay.
Running around playing with things. I was like, you know,
I wish all these blessings and memories.
we need to rest. She's like, oh, yeah, but after, and she wasn't like eating a bunch of breastfeeding, but she was like reading all her books and playing with it up. You know.
How are you doing after your surgery?
How we believe in birthday. So we're just gonna keep telling you happy birthday for the year.
No, unfortunately, I can't go to work during this Christmas. So,
Just so that I don't blow it too bad. Do wiener?
I forget to get my stuff. I bought myself. Whatever company he's from. How are you? You're okay? I know. What did you say? I did the same way. I did the same way. I was down going, I got forced to go get a period test.
I showered.
I don't want to.
No, it's
Because I know I was. That's right. I walked her to just lost one. She's had a new one. Yeah. I talked to her this morning. She's walking a little bit. She doesn't have enough help. She's got her granddaughter and her daughter, but they're not always there. So when I talked to her this morning, she was alone. She doesn't. Yeah. You know, like, yeah. I said, I have somebody who got recommended to me, and who is now, not working. She said, oh, no, she was fine.
So before we get started, Shabbat Shalom, welcome everyone here in the sanctuary. and also to those on the Zoom, as well as the live stream. We're going to get started in just a second. I want to say a couple of words about prayer book tonight. The Siddur, the prayer book, is Mishkan Tefillah, but with a number of insertions. So for those in the sanctuary, you'll be able to find those, and I'll point them out. They'll be up on the wall. In fact, our entire service is projected up on the wall, so you don't have to have your head down in the prayer book unless that's a place that you enjoy having yourself. So whatever's comfortable for you. Also, for those on the Zoom or the live stream, welcome. We are going to be having a posting of the PDF of that same material that's up on the wall. So if you want a prayer book and you haven't gotten one, I know Alan Berger would be very happy to get you a prayer book. And if you just want to be looking at the wall, you will find everything you need. And again, Tana Marks will be making sure that all of the PDFs are up there and available in the ether of the internet. So there's a lot going on. And at the beginning, I like to say, please forgive me when I mess up managing the control, because sometimes I forget. I will call out page numbers. Occasionally I forget to call out page numbers. Feel free to do this, and I'll know that means I should have done something. The camper usually is very good about reminding me. So we're going to start off with an opening nigun of Wordless Melody. Pick any syllable you like. Before COVID, before almost 2 years ago, it was common for me to say, let's take a deep breath in. And I didn't have to think about the question of whether you had a cloth mask or KN95 or God knows, or if the mask was worn appropriately. So even though there's a little bit of a risk that we have to get through literally the mask in front of us, my teacher, Dr. Eugene Borowitz, wrote a wonderful book called The Masks That Jews Wear, talking about Jewish presence in modernity in the 1960s and 70s. That's a topic for another day, but I think he would have something to say on all these masks that we're wearing. At any rate, let me invite you as best you are able. And if you're on the Zoom or the live stream and you want to be in solidarity with us and put your masks on at home, that's fine too. We don't mind. But if you don't want to, we understand. So a deep breath and a release. That breath in Hebrew, neshama, is also the soul. Nefesh is also the being. These words of inhalation, inspiration, respiration, all linked together. Shabbat comes and we transition from the rhythm of our creative week, where we are creators of the world around us. And on Shabbat, we step back, we change our rhythm, and we are reminded that we too are creatures created in the divine image. I'm going to offer the blessing. The last creative activity of our work week is the kindling of Sabbath lights, our most exemplary of human creative activities, and I'll ask the cantor to lead us in the benediction.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu le'ohaliter shel Shabbat.
Amen. You will find the words for our reading, our next reading, in the prayer book in just a moment, but the cantor is going to lead us in a special insertion from the prophet Amos, chapter 5, verse 24, right up on the wall.
Let justice roll down like waters, and righteousness as a mighty stream. Let justice roll down. Let justice roll down as a mighty stream. Let justice roll down like waters, and righteousness as a mighty stream. Let justice roll down. Let justice roll down as a mighty stream. ויגאל כמים משפט, וצדקה כנחל איתן. ויגאל כמים משפט, וצדקה כנחל איתן. Let justice roll down like waters, and righteousness as a mighty stream. Let justice roll down. Let justice roll down as a mighty stream. Let justice roll down. Let justice roll down as a mighty stream.
Words of the prophet often invoked by Reverend King. Turn ahead to page 9 in the prayer book as we read responsibly. There are days, too many, when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain. On Shabbat, we seek not to acquire, but to share. And there are days, too many, when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted. On Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation. There are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others. On Shabbat, we are reminded that justice is our duty and a better world our goal. So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace. The words of the Piyut, the liturgical poem L'Chadodi, embody the notion of Shabbat. Shabbat is literally described using words lifted from the prophets for Jerusalem, but turned into the embodiment, the personage of Shabbat. It's our custom when we get to the very last stanza, I'll give a cue, and whether we're here in the sanctuary or at home as we are able in body and or spirit, we will rise face toward the entryway and invite Shabbat to enter and join us. Lecha Dodi. Page 20. Rise as you are able to face the entryway and invite Shabbat in. Having invited Shabbat to enter, welcoming Shabbat. It is also our custom here to welcome one another. So whether you're here live in the sanctuary or you're on Zoom, I want to invite you to take a few moments. You can give an elbow bump if that's your comfort, or a handshake, or if you know and you want to give a hug, that's not prohibited, but introduce yourself to someone new. You haven't met yet.
Thank you so much.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Hi, Karen. Shabbat shalom.
We can do that, can we?
It's Laura.
Hi, Laura.
I
can
recognize the voice. Yeah. Sounds like it's quite a crowd there in the synagogue.
It
does.
It does.
Does, right? Hi, Pat. You're muted.
Hi, Shabbat shalom.
This is. Oh, you're right, Karen. Why shouldn't we be chatting while they're chatting, right?
Exactly.
Good for you.
Why not?
Why not?
And Michael and Rhonda and Lydia and
Hi, everybody. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Everybody. David.
Hi, Helene. Shabbat shalom. It's Laura.
Good to see you.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom to
Great
you
to
all.
see you. You're looking great, Helene.
Yeah.
Hi, Olivia.
How do you see me? Yeah, I'm
What?
taking youth serum.
Yay. Can I have some? Hi, Stephanie.
Hey, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Hi, Greg.
Hi, Ross.
Hi, Ross.
Hi, Yuda.
I don't know, Udan. I can't see you.
Hello, Stephanie. Good to see
No,
you.
I do. I know who you are. Hi.
Hi, Yuda. It's Sharon. Good to see you.
So, with that in mind, you'll get a chance afterwards, I promise you.
Hi, Greg and Bonnie.
Do me a favor, don't quiz each other on what's my name. Remind people what your name is. That's a nice thing to do. We are going to celebrate the arrival of Shabbat and all of us with Psalm 92, the traditional psalm that the Levites sang in Jerusalem as Shabbat began, page 22, or right up on the wall.
מזמושים ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשבחו עליון, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשבחו עליון, נמהים
Before we turn to the call to worship in the main body of our service, I want to once again welcome the members of First Presbyterian Church, our partners on observing. We're not supposed to be celebrating Dr. King's birthday this weekend. The King family has said that until the John Lewis Voting Rights Act is passed, as legislation, they don't want celebration, but commemoration and observance just the same. We feel obliged. That has been the custom between our two congregations for a number of years. So welcome to my friend and colleague, Adrian Thorne, and we wish you a continued speedy recovery from the pandemic that just continues to share. We seem to be in a little bit of a good news place, perhaps, but as we say in Yiddish, a Mensch tracht und Gott lacht, man, the human being makes plans, and God laughs. So one never quite knows, but we're hopeful, and we should never take hope away. We are going to rise now for the call to worship, page 28, the Bar of Food. We join together up on the wall or toward the bottom of page 31 in the creative reading for the creation prayer together. This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of life. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of life. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atalunai, ama'ali aravim. We join together in a reading that you won't find in the Siddur, but on the PDF up on the wall. We read responsibly. In each age, we receive and transmit Torah. In each moment, we are addressed by the world. In each age, we are challenged by our ancient teaching. At each moment, we stand face to face with truth. In each age, we add our wisdom to that which has gone before. At each moment, the knowing heart is filled with wonder. In each age, the children of Torah become its builders and seek to set the world firm on a foundation of truth. Ata Adonai, Ohev Amot Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam
Together, hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever. We join with the cantor in the chanting of the Shema's paragraph, the Ve'ahavta, right up on the wall or on page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Again, a reading that is up on the wall or on PDF. We worship the power that unites all the universe into one great harmony. That oneness, however, is not yet. We see imperfection, disorder, and evil all about us. But before our eyes is a vision of perfection, order, and goodness. These two we have known in some measure together. There is evil enough to break the heart, good enough to exalt the soul. Our people has experienced untold suffering and wondrous redemptions. We await a redemption more lasting and more splendid than any of the past. When will redemption come? When we master the violence that fills our world. When we look upon others as we would have them look upon us. When we grant to every person the rights we claim for ourselves. Once we were in bondage, then we were free. In this first liberation, our people saw revealed the power of the Most High. They perceived that the divine presence redeems time and event from the hands of tyrants. We too acclaim the power that makes for freedom. We sing the song that celebrates our deliverance from Egypt and all bondage. Find me Chamocha on page 40. In the evenings, we ask for God's providence to guard over us as we lie down, hoping to awaken to peace in the morning and a world renewed.
Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow,
The bottom of the screen, page 42.
Baruch atah Adonai haporech shalom. Shalom aleichem kol Yisrael. Ve'al Yerushalayim ve'akol. Ve'al Yerushalayim shalom. Ve'al Yerushalayim ve'akol. Ve'al Yerushalayim shalom. Adonai haporech shalom. Shalom aleichem kol Yisrael. Shalom aleichem kol Yisrael.
Shabbat is not merely observance, it is covenant. It is called an oath in Exodus 31, a sign between the people of Israel and the creator of the universe, a reminder that even as God rested on the seventh day, so do we. I invite, as you were able in body and or spirit, to arise as we offer Tefillah, the prayers of community. You'll find the beginning meditation, page 46, as we progress through the prayer book.
Open up my lips, let my mouth declare your praise.
Our congregation is filled with the different customs of the Jewish world. If it is your custom to remain standing throughout the remainder of Tefillah, please do. If it's your custom to have a seat at this point, we also invite you to do that, whatever is most comfortable. We continue in the English. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mikadesh ha-Shabbat. Together, ever-present one. May we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer, wherever we live, wherever we seek you. In this land, in Zion restored, in all lands, you are our God, whom alone we serve in reverence. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadecha v'yirah na'avod. Together, God's goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, atov shemcha ulechana et lechodot. And the final prayer of Tefillah, the prayer for peace, Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav, Am Yisrael, Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav, Am Yisrael, Tasim Le'olam. Ki ata melech adon, lechol hashalom. Ki ata melech adon, lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav, Am Yisrael, Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav, Am Yisrael, Tasim Le'olam. V'tov b'einecha levaret, et Omcha Yisrael. V'chol עת v'chol shah, v'yishmerecha. Shalom Rav, Am Yisrael, Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav, Am Yisrael, Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam.
Baruch atah Adonai, hamevarech et Am Yisrael, Shalom. We take these moments now for a silent prayer meditation and invite you to have a seat if you wish. There is a scripted text to begin that journey, the traditional text on 62, some contemporary settings on 63, or whatever our own hearts now come.
Oseh shalom bimro, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimro, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimro, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al Yisrael. Yaseh shalom b'rav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Shalom b'rav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom b'rav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al Yisrael.
So we keep hoping that the world will right itself and perhaps things will be a little bit more in the way we used to be accustomed to things. But it doesn't always work that way. So rather than a pulpit exchange this year, Reverend Thorne and I thought that perhaps we would do a pulpit dialogue. So I'm going to ask Reverend Thorne to please join me up here. And this is a chance, please be forgiving and kind to your clergy. Usually we would have a lot of time to prep, and perhaps a little bit more by the seat of Bartalis. So let me turn that on. Excellent. Okay. So welcome everyone. Adrian, let me begin by observing that it's always struck me as besher, that wonderful Yiddish word, something greater than coincidence, that our national observance and commemoration of Dr. King's birthday so regularly aligns in the Jewish community with this week's Torah portion of our lection in the synagogue community when we are reading Exodus chapter 15, the famous song at the Red Sea. In fact, this Shabbat has a special title because of that reading, Shabbat Shirah, the Sabbath of Song. That song our Israelite ancestors sang crossing through the divided waters of the sea still today resonates for us in Jewish life is indicated in a number of ways. The fact that we sing, and we did sing it, verses 11 and 18 of that chapter twice daily. As a matter of fact, as part of our liturgy, the cantor chanted it tonight. And it is also known for us as the Mi Chamocha. So that's the piece that actually is sung twice daily, taken from that biblical passage. I have to therefore always ask myself, is this pure accident, random chance, that Dr. King's birthday aligns so frequently with this pivotal event in Judeo-Christian and African-American spiritual church tradition? That concept of beshert, the Yiddish word that is typically used for romantically destined partners, also applies to anything that is fortuitous. From my point of view, all of these meanings, including the partnership meaning, seem to apply to the regular alignment of these two defining occasions in our congregation's lives, and which bring us together tonight.
So I want to thank you for that beautiful context, powerful context. I always learn so much in dialogue with Rabbi Serge, as I'm sure you all do. So I would have to agree, and I think it's no accident that Dr. King's birthday aligns with this story of liberative movement. It seems to me that the man who was pivotal in setting this country's people and this country's perspective free would have a birthday that joins arms, links thought and perspective with this story that is central to the faith of enslaved Africans, namely the Exodus. If you know anything about liberation theology, the Exodus story sits at the center of the story for African people who were enslaved in this country. So it makes spiritual sense to me, it makes cosmic sense to me, and I think, as I usually think, that God knew what God was doing when this coming together happened. I also really appreciate the focus that you have given me that connects the story with song. It seems to me clearly that the Jewish tradition, after all the singing that we've done tonight, that it's an important part of Jewish faith, Jewish storytelling, Jewish memory. It's also powerful for me and a tremendous part of the Black church tradition and of the Christian tradition. It is a powerful part, I think, of faith for African descendant people. A lot of our stories, our memories, especially as a people who may not have been literate in terms of reading, a lot of wisdom and stories and generational connection was shared in song. So that's a very powerful thing for me as well. I don't think that we can think about the civil rights movement and think about Dr. King without thinking of the soundtrack of that time. So stories like from Mahalia Jackson, from Bernice Johnson Reagan, and from all the unnamed people who put
songs together. People who, I think like in the Jewish tradition, we don't know who wrote those songs. We imagine David, we imagine Moses. But things like, how I got over, my soul looked back and wondered how I got over. And you probably know, ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. So all of those songs, those traditions are very powerful, and I appreciated that you connected song with liberation, because I think it was key to what Dr. King was about and what he offered the world. And it was important. These community members who kept the tradition of spirituals alive and passed them along through the generations. And I think that sharing the snippets of those songs are powerful to what we're talking about.
I love Digital Pharaoh get lost, get lost, get lost.
I don't know that one.
Digital Pharaoh get lost in the Red Sea true.
Nice, nice. I didn't know that was good search.
In synagogue life, we chant this song, or the Hebrew also means poem. We chant the song passage from the scroll this week, but also tellingly, on the seventh and final day of Passover, that last full day of the holiday, since the crossing of the Red Sea is understood to have taken place 6 days after the angel of death passed over the houses of the Israelites in Goshen. That was the suburb of Egypt that they lived in. So that first night, so great was the affliction, the death of the firstborn in Egypt, that Pharaoh demanded that Moses and Aaron take the people and leave immediately in the midst of the night. 6 days later, we're standing at the shore of the Sea of Reeds. Pharaoh's army is in close pursuit. Cecil B. DeMille did a good job. Go check out the video. Right? Pharaoh's army is in close pursuit to take them back to servitude, and the sea is apparently a watery grave in front of them because slaves don't get swimming lessons.
Right.
Of course, we all know the story, and although we obviously first and foremost celebrate our liberation from servitude and oppression, it is our custom also to reflect on the price that we paid for that liberation. We are intentionally mindful of the price of freedom at our Seder meals when we take a full cup of wine and we diminish our cup of celebration by removing drops of wine for each of the plagues upon the Egyptians to diminish the fullness of our celebration. Even more telling of our attempt to be conscious of the cost of freedom is the ethical sensitivity I find in a 2,000-year-old midrashic legend about the crossing of the sea. We read, on seeing the Egyptian soldiers drowning in the closing waters of the sea, the angelic chorus in heaven breaks out in jubilant songs of praise. But God silences the angelic chorus, declaring, "How dare you sing for joy when my creatures are drowning?" You can find that in 2 sections of the Talmud. My creatures, my children, are as much the Egyptians as the Israelites, this legend reminds us. My guess is that this legend was a response, in fact, to the triumphal militarism of the song itself, which in verse 3 praises God as Ish Milchama. God is a man of war. We sing praise to God not solely then for our freedom, but in this song tomorrow, we also praise God for literally annihilating our enemies. A challenging passage.
Yes. How dare you sing for joy when my creatures are dying? I think that is the sermon right there. And I think in the seminary that was the struggle that we had, this idea of evil being real, harem, of utter destruction. And I think as preachers, even now, sitting with so many acts of destruction visited upon children of God, how dare us sing for joy when people are dying. And we see this triumphalism playing out. We probably could come up with 100 different ways when one side thinks the other has deserved what they got. Because they're gay, we look at the Pulse nightclub shooting. Because they're supposed sex workers, the Korean massage parlor workers who were shot in Atlanta. Because they're poor, Hurricane Katrina in the Ninth Ward of Louisiana, or Republican voters who were shot in a mass shooting at a country music festival. We are all God's creatures. And I shared with Serge earlier today that I reminded my child, who is 11, of this fact, and did such a great job that even as I was lamenting during the last presidential administration, some of the practices of Donald Trump, my child reminded me, he too is a child of God, Mom. He is a good person. He is not making good choices. So it is always wonderful for our children to actually listen to what we're saying and to give it back to us when we are not practicing what we preach. But the reality is that God weeps when we perish, and not just when we perish, but when our enemies perish. And so the question for me, I think the question has always been, what is our responsibility to those enemies, so-called enemies? Certainly not to rejoice in their suffering at the very least, but what more?
That is absolutely the question. I want to point out, not an answer to that question. I want to dial back into the story, though. I think it's worth pointing out that when we talk about leaving our enslavement, leaving Egypt, that for the Jewish community, the Hebrew focused community, Egypt, Mitzrayim, as we call it, is less the actual geographic location of modern Egypt, and it's more meaningfully the spiritual condition we associate with oppression and servitude. That Hebrew word Mitzrayim is understood by our rabbinic sages as built upon a Hebrew root, Tzadi, Resh, Sar. In the song we sing, we have a spiritual, the whole wide world is a very narrow bridge. Gesher, Tsar, Sar Me'od. That is Egypt. It is not a place so much as it is a condition of narrowness, of constriction. It's less an exact location when we invoke it in our story, and it is more a particular condition wherever and whenever you may be. We spoke about this in the congregation last week, that in his classic book from 1986, Exodus and Revolution, Michael Walzer writes, we still believe, or many of us do, what the Exodus first taught. First, that wherever you live, it's probably Egypt. Second, that there is a better place, a world more attractive, a promised land. And third, that the way to the land is always through the wilderness. There's no way to get from here to there except by joining together and marching.
And marching, yes. So wherever you live is probably Egypt, and whoever you're with is probably who you got to get to the promised land with. So I agree with you, this notion that we are leaving Egypt. And I love the idea that it's a condition because it's something then that's never done. We never leave Egypt, we're always leaving. I say this to my congregation often when people say that they are woke. I'm like, it's not a done deal. We're always awakening. So please stop saying I'm woke. So there is a better place, and there is a way out of that narrow existence. And I agree, it's through the wilderness. And I think we have to remind ourselves that we are who we've got. We are what we've got. And that this condition, this band of travelers, these companions on the way, these might be as good as it gets in terms of travel companions. And so who's going to ride shotgun? This idea that we're walking together and not getting weary, and it's a great camp meeting in the promised land, that's an old spiritual as well. I think the key for this, the antidote to the weariness and to the narrowness, is our community, is the people that we travel with and walking together. We need each other. And And as my kid would say, not just our friends, but also the people we think are our enemies as well. I believe the goal, what God had in mind, is that we're going to this place with people we like and people we don't like, people we love and people that we struggle to love. Amen. It's not just for us. The promise is not just for us, but for our enemies too. And so there's a children's song you may know, get on board, little children, get on board, little children, get on board, little children, there's room for many or more. And it says the fare is cheap and all can go. The rich and poor are there. No second class aboard this train, no difference in the fare. It costs us all the same thing, but as Serge said earlier, it's going to cost us. And I don't know how cheap the fare is, because I don't know if you've had to travel with someone you don't really want to be in the car with. So there's a cost to that. Dietrich Bonhoeffer would call it cheap grace. We think that this is going to be easy, but it is not. Wilderness is not an easy place. Leaving Egypt again and again is going to cost us something. But I think the way to the better place is always together. It's the only way, walking together.
And I want to walk together, and I want to believe in that notion of the promised land. And yet, Walter's assertion that wherever you live in the moment, right now, here, is probably still Egypt. Even for my ancestors who came to this country from pogroms and came to the Golden Medina, the Golden Land, even for all the freedom I experience, I'm still probably living in Egypt. It's taken me a few decades to understand what I think Walter's intention was by that provocative comment that wherever we are, we're still probably in Egypt. We all still live in Egypt, even if, and I think this is his point, even if individually we experience living in a sort of promised land, we live with our own personal freedom, we are living in Egypt in reality. We are Egyptians, essentially, because we human beings, all of us, continue to live in societies that oppress others. In fact, that realization has led to my own creative, modern, midrashic legend, which I'm going to drop on you, and a set of new questions. So here goes. Divrei Rabbi Serge, words of the Rabbi Serge. As the Israelites were marching through the dry ground of the Reed Sea, they came to the end of the passage, through the walls of water on their right and their left, and they ascended the rise to the far shore, expecting the free, unclaimed wilderness of Sinai. Instead, they beheld a miracle. For the shore that was before them was not the other side, but it was the very same side they had departed from. It was still Egypt. What, I wonder, would have been the outcome if instead of sending the Israelites to their previously promised land, God had turned them back to Egypt with a commandment, make of this narrow place a promised land. Live alongside the Egyptians who have made you suffer and who have now suffered my wrath to make you free. Create there a just and equitable society, here and now, not there and then, somewhere, someday. Ultimately, the parting and the crossing of the Red Sea by the Israelites, we read. It's a brilliant metaphor for rebirth from oppression and servitude into self-agency and empowerment. But as we claim in Jewish tradition, the liberation of Israel from Egypt was but a foretaste of a greater redemption that is promised for all humanity. When will that redemption come, we asked in the prayers? Perhaps when we recognize that everywhere is still Egypt.
And we hate that. We hate that. Oh my God, we hate it so much. In my tradition, we would say that we are sinners we are yet sinners, and that we were saved and loved by God even while we were yet sinners. And so this notion that we are always on the way, that we are always becoming, we're always awakening, we're always leaving Egypt, I think is our reality, and we hate it. And this turns me to the Jeremiah text where the prophet says that we are meant to build houses and settle down in Egypt, right? We're meant to plant gardens and eat what they produce, to have marriages and have babies, and to seek the peace and prosperity of the city where I have carried you. That is horrible. We don't like it. I don't like it. And you have to be, I think, a truly mature person in your faith to not only turn back to Egypt, but to want for the Egyptians what we want for ourselves. And this turns us, of course, to Dr. King's speech about the drum major instinct and what is it about humanity that makes that desire that others have what we have, what makes that anathema to us. We want to win. We want to be better. We want to be one up. And Dr. King said so beautifully, a desire we have to be out in front, a desire to lead the parade, a desire to be first. And it is something that runs the entire gamut of our life. We're always beating that drum major instinct because we all want to be important. We want to surpass others, he said, to achieve distinction, to lead the parade. And this is the dominant impulse. We are on a quest for recognition, a desire for attention, a desire for distinction. And this is the basic drive of human life. And it contributes certainly to healthy self, to want to shine, right? But when it is out of control, it is really evil. So I'll just end with this. When I first served my first church internship in the Virgin Islands, I was invited to dinner at the home of a member. She invited the pastor and I to join her. Now, this was a woman in the congregation, I'm sure you don't have anyone like this here, who was constantly needling the pastor. Everything was wrong. His hair was too long, his hair was too short. She hated the sermons, they were too long, they were too short.
There is no hair.
And so I said to the pastor, why are we going to dinner at this woman's house? And he simply replied, because she invited us. And I said to him, but I thought Christians were supposed to be better than her, better than the world. But what he said to me is, this is Egypt. And he said, what if this is as good as it gets? And I promise you, I started crying. Because I thought, this can't be it. There's got to be a better promised land. But what the call is, and what he reminded me of, is that we're meant to do in that space what we can to make it a promised land. In that space and with those people, walk together, children, to help us all see some promise in that land. Because it's there. It's always there. It's there for those with eyes to see it, and it's there for those who help each other to see it. We are called to paint pictures and dream dreams, to plant gardens and officiate weddings and welcome babies and set feasts and break bread and share the cup with one another. And when we can't do it, we have partners because we're walking together who help us to see, who help us to open our eyes and remind us that the promise is there. Those we walk together with carry us when we cannot carry ourselves. I plant when you cannot. You sing when I've lost the tune. We carry each other when we grow weary, and we make it together through the wilderness. And we live in hope and love to breathe another day. Amen. Amen. So, beloved community, Serge and I have the privilege of the pulpit every week, and I want to say it really is a privilege and an honor to have a captive audience every week to share our thoughts and our ideas, but we would love to hear from you. So send us an email. I understand that is your tradition here at the synagogue. I never invite people to send me emails at my church. They do it anyway. I just thought how courageous of you. So please, my congregation as well, please send us an email. Share your thoughts on the text, on Dr. King, how you think these things come together in this right now moment. We'd love to hear from you. Shabbat shalom and thank you.
Shabbat shalom. Yeshaya, more power to you.
Thank you.
And I think we have a sermon anthem. Cantor, yes, you want to introduce? Michael and Richard.
I have the great joy to invite a couple of members of the First Presbyterian Church Choir, who are composers and artists in their own right, and they are each sharing something with us. Who gets the last word with the two of you?
Hello. Thank you. My name is Michael Arriaga. I'm from FPC. Last year, Adrian Thorne and Amy Nooner approached me about making a piece for Martin Luther King weekend. Something about a bridge between MLK and John Lewis. So I wrote this here. It's called MLK to JL. Hope you enjoy it. I told my brother hate is too heavy to bear. Laid a burden down and would just interfere. No dogs are gonna turn us around. No holters or injuncts is gonna turn us around. Too many brothers are put in the ground. We stand hand in hand and they still beat us down. Now you know our mission is clear. We got the wheels turning now, it's my time to steer. I remember getting stabbed in NYC. Doctors told me I would have died there if I had sneezed. If I had sneezed, I would have never lived in 1963. Would have never lived to march on Washington to share my dream. I seen the mountaintops, so I have no fear. I fear no man, this I hope my brother's here. The devil want me under the grass. Can't choose when you're down, but this too shall pass. I told my brother hate is too heavy to bear. Laid a burden down and would just interfere. Too many brothers dying this year. Too many of us drowning in the seas of despair. Too many of us living in fear that our leaders are trying to bring us back 400 years. Now I know our mission is clear. You got the wheels turning now, it's my time to steer. Emmett Till is my Trayvon. Martin, George Floyd, Shaw Brooks, man, the list goes on. A list I could have easily been on. Cause every March was a day I could have not made it home. I used to sneak out my crib to go to class. Then you taught me love was the only way our people would last. Then wipers want us under the grass. Can't choose when you're down, but this too shall pass. Thank you.
We say in synagogue when someone does something exceptional, we say yesher koach, which is hard to translate. It's the equivalent of more power to you. And that was really wonderful, and I'm glad it's being recorded because that gave us a very quick history in the space of just a minute or so. That was extraordinary. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. I need you, you need me. We're all a part of God's body. Stand with me, agree with me. We're all a part of God's body. It is His will that every need be supplied. You are important to me. I need you to survive. You are important to me. I need you to survive. I need you. You need me. We're all a part of God's body. Stand with me. Agree with me. We're all a part of God's body. It is His will that every need be supplied. You are important to me. I need you to survive. You are important to me. I need you to survive. I pray for you. You pray for me. I love you. I need you to survive. I won't harm you
with words from my mouth. I love you, I need you to survive. I pray for you, you pray for me. I love you, I need you to survive. I won't harm you with words from my mouth. I love you, I need you to survive. I pray for you, you pray for me. I love you, I need you to survive. I won't harm you with words from my mouth. I love you, I need you to survive. Oh, I need you to survive. Oh, I need you to survive. It is His will that every need is supplied. You are important to me. I need you to survive. You are important to me. I need you to survive.
Michael, Richard, thank you for your gifts to the community tonight. Thank you so much. Imagine what it'll be like when we can be unmasked. Wow. So it is our custom here at Brooklyn Heights Synagogue to offer prayers for those in need of healing and blessing, whether it be something minor, something moderate or major. We share the names aloud of those we're praying for healing and blessing. Lori Blum, Chaya Malka Bat Chaya, Lean Furman Gold, Gloria Sancho, Jenny St. George, Chava Gittel Bat Frida, Yona Chaya Bat Miriam, Ruth Bat Benjamin Bat Chava, Steve Brown Inns, Yona Tevye Ben Label Get to Kenya, Renee Fishson, Moshe Ben Leon, Nancy Lazar, Delroy Aline, Max Estroff, Heike Bat Freda, Chaim, Kim Petchek, Peggy Einhorn, Bruce Shapiro Nygren, Eleanor Shapiro Nygren, Bela Rivka Bachmul Pesach the Esther, Susan Sonkin, David Stephen Cohen, Peter Ford, Donald Pearlstein, Ken Coleman Cohen, Christy Frank, Sally Sorbello, Nick Boyer, and Maureen McLeod. If you have a name that you'd like to share aloud as my hand comes across the congregation, or that you want to share on the Zoom, Hannah, if you send it to me, I'll be able to read them from my device up here as well. Jerry Ann Abriano, Adam Molina, and let me invite from the congregation.
David Reagan, David Catterick, Judy Brown.
Linda, Luke Schwartz, Susie Elson, Ed Elson, Ken Birch, Esther Kosakov. And I invite you to share names aloud also on the live stream. We'll take a moment in silence so those names can be shared. We join with the cantor in singing.
May the source of strength, who blessed all once before, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
We also
Bless those in need of healing, bring them through our Shema. The renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Can you hear us? So may it be God's will. And I do want to say, Adrian, that as we continue to wish for your full recuperation and Petal's health, it goes without saying that I think that something I wanted to mention before was we in the clergy community here in the neighborhood spend an awful lot of time together, not always on the pulpit of each other's houses, but working together, and we get to know each other pretty well, breaking bread, sharing meals, and it is one of these great pleasures of pastoral life and of leadership to be able to find colleagues, true colleagues, in the care of communities and in seeking to understand God's desires of us. And I've really been blessed to be able to partner with Reverend Thorne, and I'm so grateful to have her as a colleague in the neighborhood. I wish her continuing years of success. We should be able to join with each other like this, without the masks, in good health for many, many years. So thank you, and wishes for good health. We're going to turn to prayers for our community, for the state of Israel, and for the United States. You can find those prayers on page 258, 259, or right up on the wall, if I can manage to manage my own prayer book right up here. Sorry about that. Together, O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country sound in body and spirit. Amen. O Heavenly One, Protector and Redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love. Spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. And we say, Amen. Our concluding prayers, Aleinu, you can find on page 283 as we now rise, page 283.
Aleinu Shabbat Adam Chachol, Latei Lulav Yotzei Bereshit, She'arosach Chalkei Yafeh et Shemo, V'kol Aleinu Lehamlich Malchuto, V'anachnu korim, V'shomim Kodim, V'rifnei Ba'alav, Malkei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch.
We cannot pray to you, O God, to banish war, for you have filled the world with paths to peace, if only we would take them. We cannot pray to you to end starvation, for there is food enough for all, if only we would share it. We cannot merely pray for prejudice to cease, for we might see the good in all that lies before our eyes, if only we would use them. We cannot merely pray, root out despair, for the spark of hope already waits within the human heart for us to fan into flame. We must not ask of you, O God, to take the task that you have given us. We cannot shirk, we cannot flee away, avoiding obligation forever. Therefore, we pray, O God, for wisdom and will, for courage to do and to become, not merely to look on with helpless yearning as though we had no strength. For your sake and ours, speedily and soon, let it be. that our world may be safe, that our lives may be blessed. Not yet, but one day soon, when all the world is one and your name is one. On that day, O God, you shall be one, and we shall call upon you as one. Our thoughts turn to those who are gathered with us through the blessing of memory. We recall those whose passing falls in Shloshim in the last 30 days in the month. David Furman, the uncle of Healy Slackman. Healy has just flown off to St. Louis for his funeral. The passing of Haley Goldman. We extend our condolences to Jessica Wiener on the passing of your sister, Jessica. Gail Dincher, the mother of Jeff Dincher, and Lloyd Weinreb, the father of Lizzie Fishman. We also call to mind those whose yahrzeit, the anniversary of their passing, falls at this season of the year. Henrietta Itkin is recalled by Rita Schwartz. Roz Plax is recalled by Matt Baer. Bess Finkel is recalled by Jeremy Robbins. Morris Eisenberg is recalled by Miriam Baisley. Bernard Fleet is recalled by Ellen Edelman. Eliyahu Cohn is recalled by Amira Cohn-Tratner. George Carey is recalled by the Brooklyn Heights Synagogue community. Herschel Turk is recalled by Sabina Turk. Bruce Siegel is recalled by the congregation. Miriam Sternick is recalled by Renee Fishzone. Harry Brown is recalled by Arlene Brown. Bastien Judah Benjamin Los Tenhouten is recalled by Leisha Tenhouten. Samuel Sweet is recalled by Linda Sweet. Faye Gooderman is recalled by the congregational community. Ulula Weiss is recalled by the congregational community. Philip Leff is recalled by Stephen Gold. Selma Ratner is recalled by Donald Ratner. Louis Sachs is recalled by Stephen Sachs. Regina Fuhrer is recalled by Miriam Bukatinsky. Mark Feinberg is recalled by the congregation. Helga Lam is recalled by Mark Lam. Jack Edelman is recalled by Ellen, Sarah, and Rebecca Edelman. Mara Balkin is recalled by Jane Myers. Diana Herzog is recalled by John Herzog in the community. Margaret Durham Ziff is recalled by Sarah Durham. Fanny Wittes is recalled by the congregation. Stephen Meth is recalled by Stephanie Neville. Joan Kirschenbaum is recalled by Jamie Schultz. Jacob Schachter is recalled by Bob Schachter, Robert Schachter. Paul Dintz is recalled by David Dintz. Joseph M. Schnapper is recalled by Bonnie Schnapper. Sylvia Block is recalled by Jeff Ginsberg. Betty Kruger is recalled by Nancy Cohen. Hyman Cohen is recalled by Janice Collado. Natan Epstein is recalled by Mila Schmutter. Jacob Rapchick is recalled by Linda Rapchick. Marty Kaufman is recalled by Ellen Kaufman-Newsy. Zachary Wolf is recalled by John Romano. Max Sternberg is recalled by Joan Sternberg. Sylvia Rosenblum is recalled by Patricia Rosenblum. George McLeod is recalled by Maureen McLeod. Sophie Fagenbaum is recalled by Barbara Lerman-Gall. Lorna Berg Shanis is recalled by Robin Shanis. Julius G. Jacobs is recalled by the congregation. Martin Gertman is recalled by Mark Langman. Stafford Elias is recalled by Monica Elias. Sylvia Mann is recalled by Carol Mann. Mim Gertz is recalled by Rebecca Katz. Nat Maripol is recalled by Neil Maripol. Ben Lieberman is recalled by Louis Lieberman. Sarah Marins is recalled by the community. Jim Witter is recalled by Jonathan Cobb. Abe Olshansky is recalled by David Schultz. And Joel First is recalled by Mark First. If I have inadvertently mispronounced any of these names, or if I have failed to share aloud the name of the loved one who you are recalling on this Shabbat Eve with Kaddish, please do share those names aloud. And again, if anyone on the Zoom wishes to share names, or those on the live stream wish to share names, I invite you to do so. Hannah, I'm going to invite you to unmute the Zoom video so those who are reciting Kaddish at a distance can join us. I'm aware it'll be a little bit discordant, but that is really okay. Samuel, Rudolph, as recalled by Laura Shapiro. You'll find the words of the Mourner's Kaddish, page 296, as we join together. Yitkadal
Ikadash Shemei Rabbah, Yamad Ibrahim Yamlichma, Yomechom Chayei Jechobed Yisrael, Kalabizman Karivim Ru Amen, Yishmei Rabbah Mevarach Leolam Omei Maya, Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitbachar V'yishamam V'yitnaseh, Yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shemei Dekudashah B'richu La'ela Min Kol Birchasha V'shirata Tushbachata V'nechamata Da'amiran V'yalma V'imru Amen Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chaim Aleinu Ve'el Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen Se Shalom B'imromav Huya Ase Shalom Aleinu Ve'el Kol Yisrael V'yoshe Tevel V'imru Amen.
On high, cause peace to descend upon us, all Israel, our entire world. And let us say,
Amen.
Please be seated, everyone. It's my pleasure to call on Marcia Bellows, the president of our congregation. Over live.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and welcome to people from First Pres Church. It's always nice to see you, and this is always an extraordinary service. Thank you to Rabbi Lip and Reverend Thorne for the thought-provoking dialogue. Thank you to Michael and Richard for the wonderful poem and song. And thank you, Cantor Eilert and Miriam, for the music tonight. I also want to thank our greeter, Alan Gertler, who is taking care of the books. Thank you so much for joining. We have several announcements. Oh, and I was told to mention the refrigerator between that we're doing with
The Presbyterian Church is a refrigerator.
Oh, okay, what do we need?
The boy didn't have anything in it yesterday. We need to put things into it.
Okay, Rita Schwartz says we need to put food items into the refrigerator. And Rita, tell us exactly where it is.
It's on Henry Street, directly in front of the church, and we really need to provide for those who need the food.
Okay, thank you, Rita. Okay, with announcements, we have tomorrow morning at 9:30, Havara with Rabbi Lip. Saturday, also tomorrow, 3 p.m., tune into Zoom for the documentary Descended
from the Promised Land, the legacy of Black Wall Street, followed by a discussion with our neighbors from First Presbyterian. Sunday is Sunday worship on Zoom with First Presbyterian Church, including a special sermon titled Assassinating the Radical King. Monday the 17th, the BHS Early Childhood Education has a Tu B'Shvat Zoom concert with Adam. Happy birthday to the trees. There's more adult ed. We have many offerings. Tuesday, January 18th, Cantor Eyelet is holding her class, Jews, Jazz, and Jewish Jazz. That's 7 p.m. on the 18th. Also, adult ed, the Exodus story. The last two times are the 16th and 23rd. Is that right?
There's one time that is left, and that's
The 23rd. The 23rd is the last session. Movie watch group is meeting next Friday. The men's group is meeting on Sunday, January 23rd. The book group is meeting on February 8th. And on February 3rd, we're on Zoom is a special talk with Karen Gordon, who has written a book. And she will be discussing her book with Nelson Teddy, who will be moderating. We also have some events. So mark your calendars for Saturday, January 29th. In lieu of getting to know you dinner, which hopefully will be at a later date when we can all be together, we are having a special game night that's Saturday, January 29th on Zoom. Please come to that. Also, on Thursday, May 19th, is Surge's Silver Celebration, our celebration in honor of Surge's 25th year at BHS. And that is all of the announcements for tonight. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom, thank you, Archie. Reverend Thorne and I will both be participants tomorrow with the screening and discussion. So I want to really make a plug. It is an opportunity for us to, in the two congregations, there'll be breakout rooms and a chance to meet members from the other house of worship. So please do. It's not that hard. You can come in your PJs. It's on Zoom, and it's 20. Well, some people, it's Shabbos. Shabbos, some of us stay in PJs all day long. It's actually, the film is only 23 minutes. That's its entire screening time. So it's really, if you don't know much about the Tulsa Massacre, it's a very important part of, an unfortunate part, but a very important part to be told and witnessed of this country's history. So we'll get a chance. Our closing song tonight is We Shall Overcome. I'll invite you to rise. And I'm going to call on Sandy Wertheimer to come on up and lead us with the cantor.
We shall overcome. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace someday. Oh, deep in our heart, I do believe we shall live in peace someday. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in our heart, I do believe we shall overcome
Just a reminder, we are here every Friday night, and you can join us on Zoom live stream, or just show up, show your vaccination booster card, be asymptomatic, and wear a mask, and we're here and worshiping. We're going to join in Kiddush and the sanctification online for Shabbat Eve with the cantor.
Sarei Chorei, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei b'rimei kafeh.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו, ושבת קודשו באהבה ורצון ינחילנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית. כי הוא יום תהילה למקראי קודש, זכר לציון מצרים. כי באנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת, מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך, באהבה ורצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. We're representing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, motzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Reconstituted. Shabbat shalom, everybody. Please greet someone that you just met tonight, welcome them again, and wish them Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, one and all. I met Steve. I met
Shabbat shalom.
I hope you.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Have a good weekend, everybody, and a good week.
Yeah.
Stay warm.
Hi,
See you
Olivia.
next week, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
Hey, Shabbat shalom.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
By the way, thank you, Miriam Daly, who makes everything here a platform of music, and we sometimes forget to say thank you to. Thank you, Miriam.
Your son? Where's she living? Oh, yeah. So she's been out there for a while. Oh, great. You trying to get her back? Because I'm trying to get her. We were wrong last time.